Hello again, and welcome back to year 3 of the Religious Education Initiative. This is day 1 of week 48. So last time we met our main characters, Ahasuerus the king, Mordecai the Jew, and Hadassah his niece, who became the king's wife, called Esther, after the king divorced his previous wife Vashti for disobeying and disrespecting him. This time, having set the stage with most of our principal players in place, we will see what is to happen next. So, when the virgins were being gathered together, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. Now Esther had not revealed her kindred or her people, as Mordecai had charged her, for Esther obeyed Mordecai just as when she was brought up by him. In those days, while Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, who guarded the threshold, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Ahasuerus. But the matter came to the knowledge of Mordecai, and he told it to Queen Esther, and Esther told the king in the name of Mordecai. When the affair was investigated and found to be so, both the men were hanged on the gallows. It was recorded in the book of the annals in the presence of the king. After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the officials who were with him. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and did obeisance to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" When they spoke to him day after day, and he would not listen to them, they told Haman, in order to see whether Mordecai's words would avail, for he had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance to him, Haman was infuriated. But he thought it beneath him to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So having been told who Mordecai's people were, Haman plotted to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, which means the lot, before Haman for the day and the month. And the lot fell on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and separated among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not appropriate for the king to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued for their destruction, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, so that they may put it into the king's treasuries." So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. The king said to Haman, "The money is given to you, and the people as well, to do with them as it seems good to you." Then the king's secretaries were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's satraps, and to the governors over all the provinces, and to the officials of all the peoples, to every province in its own script, and every people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed with the king's ring. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces, giving orders to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. This is a copy of the letter. "The great king Ahasuerus writes the following to the governors of the 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, and to the officials under them. Having become ruler of many nations and master of the whole world, not elated with presumption of authority, but always acting reasonably and with kindness, I have determined to settle the lives of my subjects in lasting tranquillity, and, in order to make my kingdom peaceable and open to travel throughout all its extent, to restore the peace desired by all people. When I asked my counselors how this might be accomplished,
Haman, who excels among us in sound judgment, and is distinguished for his unchanging goodwill and steadfast fidelity, and has attained the second place in the kingdom. Haman pointed out to us that among all the nations in the world there is scattered a certain hostile people, who have laws contrary to those of every nation, and continually disregard the ordinances of kings, so that the unifying of the kingdom that we honorably intend cannot be brought about. We understand that this people, and it alone, stands constantly in opposition to every nation, perversely following a strange manner of life and laws, and is ill disposed to our government, doing all the harm they can so that our kingdom may not attain stability. Therefore we have decreed that those indicated to you in the letters written by Haman, who is in charge of affairs and is our second father, shall all, wives and children included, be utterly destroyed by the swords of their enemies without pity or restraint, on the 14th day of the 12th month, Adar, of this present year, so that those who have long been hostile and remain so may in a single day go down in violence to Hades, and leave our government completely secure and untroubled hereafter.
A copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province by proclamation, calling on all the peoples to be ready for that day. The couriers went quickly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. Okay, so first of all, the letter is a little bit ridiculous. He begins talking about how he governs in kindness and with only the goodness of his people in his mind, and he ends by telling them to kill completely a people whose crimes are very vaguely stated. Now, these are the crimes for which the people of God, both in the Old Covenant and in its renewal in the New Testament, have always been accused of. Christians are not loyal first and foremost to the kingdom or the country or the nation in which they live. We follow Christ first. We are faithful to him above all others. And therefore, if perfect primacy of loyalty is demanded by a king or a governor or a president or a congress or a mayor or whomever in the cities and towns and countries in which the faithful live, the faithful must say no. And in that sense, we could, I suppose, say that the king's command here is completely just. He demands that his people honor him first and put him and his rule above all other loyalty. And the Jews, if they are faithful, refuse to do so. Although, if we look at them, we see that Esther and Mordecai, they have not refused. They have given loyalty in every way possible. Mordecai has refused to bow down and venerate, do obeisance to Haman. That is the crime. But anyway, when we look at this, we need to also understand at this time, pretty much every Jew living in the whole world, from Egypt and points south, they say Ethiopia, through the Holy Land, through Palestine, where some of the Jews had gone back and had rebuilt or were rebuilding the temple, all the way as far as the provinces of the Persians in India, all the Jews would be killed on this day. Now, they get plenty of notice. This command is established. The lot is cast for the date, and it falls to the 12th month, but this is all done in the first month, which is to say around April. So Haman decides to have all the Jews killed in April. He gets the king to agree in April, but it's not going to happen until March of the following year, or until the end of that year. So there's time, time to panic, time to be concerned, time to be afraid. But if the entire world is turned against you and has been commanded by the king of the world, effectively, to kill you all, there's not really a way out. So this is the fate that the people of God, living wherever they live, are facing. Not because they have not been loyal, not because they have disobeyed the laws, not because they have raised rebellion, but simply because they are descendants of Abraham, because they are the people of God. What we should also note is who Haman is. He's called an Agagite. And Agag, well, we just met Agag. Agag was the king of the Amalekites that King Saul refused to kill, and Samuel ended up executing after he told Saul that God had rejected him. The Amalekites had been overtly and actively enemies of God and his people from the time that we saw the Israelites come out of Egypt. The Amalekites attacked them as they were arriving at Mount Sinai to make their covenant with God. And we should understand this isn't just because the Amalekites saw people coming out of Egypt and said, "Ooh, let's kill them." This is the Amalekites being given over entirely to worship and service and alliance with the demon gods who have led them astray, and there is nothing good remaining in them. They are seeking the destruction, the abolition, the overthrow of God's plan for the salvation of the world by destroying his people that he has raised up for himself. So there is an important reality of spiritual warfare present here that we don't necessarily get. It's also worth noting who Mordecai and Esther are, because we saw that they're descendants of, they're of the tribe of Benjamin, and their ancestor who was led into captivity was named Kish. Now, this may just be a coincidence, but King Saul's father's name was Kish as well. And it's possible that they are relatives, maybe even descendants of King Saul, as Haman is a descendant of King Agag. We may be perceiving that Saul's descendants are being given a chance to get it right, where he got it so very wrong. Anyway, this is really setting the stage still. We've met the characters, and now we see the crisis. So next time we'll see what happens next. For now, God bless you all. We'll see you later on for day 2.